I'm here with Michel De Fabiani. He's gratefully joined us. He's the Vice President of the Franco-British Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and he's also a non-executive director at Valeo. Michel, thank you very much for joining us today.
Hello.
We have been talking about a lot of things today. Certainly the biggest idea I think that we have at the moment in terms of deal culture in the United Kingdom is that a company is basically now 20% cheaper than it was 9 months ago. That makes it a very attractive proposition for foreign investors. But the landscape is changing completely. Does the discount offset the risk?
Well, first, a decision on investment is not taken on a currency volatility moment.
Yeah.
It's a long-term decision, and I don't think there will be more or less deals because of that. Certainly you would calibrate your deal according to the money situation, but you would not decide. So I think it's, in a way, it's a non-issue.
Mm-hmm. But at the same time, companies that do come in to invest directly in the United Kingdom, they have to deal with a completely different landscape, I would imagine, than they did even 9 months ago, for a period of 2 years, and then a different landscape after that, potentially.
Yeah, the period of 2 years is the non-Brexit situation continuing, so it's wait and see.
Yes.
The real issue is what happened in the longer term, and I think the decision on investment is a long-term decision, and a very long-term decision. So people will invest in taking into account the 5-10 years forecast for the business, for the market analysis, for the technology analysis, not for currency or interest rates, certainly in business terms. And I think the situation is, do you think, as a company, do you think that the UK is still a good base for investment, taking into account what I call the hinterland of London and of UK, more specifically of London, but of UK in general, which is the former Commonwealth countries and the US, because we know the relationship is strong and will remain strong.
Mm-hmm. Strong relationships in history define the association between France and the United Kingdom, surely. What are your concerns about the way that trade and indeed that larger relationship could be affected by Brexit?
We don't think it will have a great effect, because if you take SMEs look at the UK as a market of 65 million people, whatever, similar. And UK SMEs consider France in a similar way, so this will not change. You could say that maybe French companies will be more attracted if London becomes the center for the Commonwealth relationship and US relationship with UK. There might be an attraction for that. On the other hand, same thing. UK companies who want to deal with North Africa or Francophone Africa or Francophone areas would invest in France to get this entry gate for Francophone countries. So in the long run, it may be a new possibility which was not really considered until now.
Mm-hmm. And of course, electoral change isn't only happening in the United Kingdom. It seems around the world we're watching these changes with kaleidoscopic speed. And certainly the next on the calendar is in your home country of France.
Yes, there are plenty of elections coming.
How significant are these presidential elections, and what are the concerns that you have from your chair?
I think we see two approaches in these elections from the various candidates. Some are more on the free market, open exchanges of people, of goods, of trade, investment, with a control by government, as we are used to do it in France or in many continental countries. Others are more on a retrenchment, a protectionist, not just anti-immigration, but anti-foreign, whatever it is, trade, people, investment. And this is a bit more worrying. So I think the choice will be important, because I think it is this sort of choice which is facing the electorate, rather than the old party attitudes.
We have seen so many challenges now to the idea of globalization. We've seen it in the Netherlands, seen it here in the United Kingdom, potentially in France, and certainly in the United States. Is that a failure of globalization itself, or is it a failure of leadership to explain the benefits of globalization, or maybe a combination of both?
I think it's a combination of both, because you cannot have a totally wild globalization. This is what people are worried about. If it's wild, it means you don't know what will happen. Sometimes you can be killed economically suddenly, and you don't like it. But there is also a need of explanation. So I think globalization is good, and talk to our Chinese, Indian, Pakistanis, Nigerian, North African colleagues. They think it's good for them, and it's good for us because our markets are more important, our productions are more important, our companies are more important. But you need to explain, and also you need to be responsible companies and take account of the social circumstances, employment issues, environmental issues. So globalization doesn't mean no limit, no constraint. It means controlled attitude.
So ultimately, government still has a role to play in concert with business to make sure the globalization works for everyone.
Yeah, regulations exist, but regulations are not, it's just a way to control. It's not a way to manage or to dictate. Mm-hmm. That's a big difference.
Do you feel that the challenges we're seeing to globalization at the moment are healthy for the project 50 years from now? Or will this pull us back maybe too sharply and slow progress that needs to be made?
There may be some short-term reactions. Take the example of US and Mexico. There is an issue there. If you are a European company, you want to invest in automobile. Now, where do you invest? In the US or in Mexico for North America? That's a big question. Yeah. For me, it's a short-term question because in the end, it's for the American market as a whole. Yeah. So that will remain.
Mm-hmm. Michel, thank you very much for your time. Very grateful.
Thank you.